at the end of the year or at the end of the tax period, if they earn, for example, 2.7 million dirhams worth of revenue and their net profits were 500,000, right? So as per the rule, 9% becomes a liability
exactly.
at 125,000 dirhams worth of revenue, because the first portion is 375,000 dirhams is going to be 0%, and the anything over and above is going to be 9%,
the net
right?
profit.
I'm talking about the net profits now. So out of 2.7 million dirhams, they earned net profits of 500,000. Based on the assumption, they are not going to pay anything. Correct?
Exactly.
But they might exceed 3 million dirhams revenue in the next year. Correct?
Yes, definitely.
So basically, they might have to create provision in their first year, right? Because there could be if they exceed, so then that becomes that becomes a liability.
Exactly.
Correct? So that is the accounting perspective. This is not going to be that easy, of course. I know that, but this accounting perspective has to be considered whenever you are talking about corporate tax in the future. Yeah. Anyways.
So this is definitely very much important thing, and the scenario you have created is absolutely right. So by this way, who will think by this way? The professional accountant will think by this way.
And by the way, not only just accountant. It's
the
very
professional
important.
accountant.
I'm really exactly. When you say professional accountant, professionally qualified and experienced accountant, I would say.
Exactly.
So that's the whole definition here.
Exactly.
Not just a freelancer, not just a non-qualified. Any other accountant can do it.
No.
It's not going to be like that. So every person doing business within the UAE, they need to make sure that they consider the right people. They partner themselves with the right accountants and right accounting firms, of course.
Exactly. You're absolutely right.
Now, if we move to the next slabs, we are only talking about the slabs at the moment. So if the business revenue actually exceeds 3 million dirhams, and that actually goes up to, let's say, 50 million dirhams, right? So there is no extra requirement at the moment?
No, there are more compliances. Okay. There are more compliances. Then you have to, like, the initial requirement is the same. The registration, filing the corporate tax, like the return filing, tax return filing, all those things. These are the mandatory things which you have to do. But on the other level, you have to look keenly, because once you are into that much quantum of level, you have to look into that one, whether you are following the laws of the transfer pricing or not. If you are having that one, such a transaction.
Another kind of big topic. I think we will do a detailed episode on this transfer pricing separately, right?
But this is
technically, now here I would actually distinguish between the mainland companies, right? And the qualifying free zone qualifying free zone company. So any company within mainland, right, and earning revenue up to 50 million dirhams, they have to register, they have to file the return, correct?
Exactly.
But still it is not mandatory to maintain the financial audit up to 50 million dirhams.
Up to 50 million?
No, correct? No. But any company which is in qualifying free zone, as you mentioned before, they have to maintain the audited financials.
So for the qualifying free zone, this is a rule of thumb. Every company have to maintain their audit.
Qualifying free zone on every free zone?
No, qualifying. We are talking about
qualifying free zone. Okay, we will get to that level where we will discuss about what is the qualifying free zone, of course.
Yes, definitely.
And now, any company in mainland and their revenue slab now move up to between 50 million dirhams to 200 million dirhams.
If that goes, the more compliances will come.
Correct, right.
So then some important things will come in place. So look at the perspective. If it is a company of more than 200 million dirham revenue, it means it is a big company. It's definitely
even between 50 to 200 million dirhams, right?
Yes.
Where they have the requirement of now the financial audit.
Exactly.
It has to be maintained, right? And maybe I'm not sure about this, but maybe if you can just correct me if I'm wrong. So those might be the part, those audited financials might be become a part of regular filing of your returns, right?
We are very much sure about that.
Right?
If they're asking, this is mandatory,
exactly.
They can ask anytime.
Anytime, yeah.
So these companies which is having more than 200,000 200 million.
200 million, yeah.
Million revenues and all that. Definitely, 99.9% chances they're having the international footfall. And once they have the international footfall, they have to comply with the transfer pricing.
Absolutely.
They have to maintain their rules and regulation in regards to transfer pricing, their own policies, and all those things, inside file and outside file and all those things.
Everything has to be maintained.
They have to have.
Yeah.
So in that case, the compliance level is quite high. But in the whole picture of the companies between the mainland and the free zone, there is a lot of relief we are looking they are already given to the qualifying free zone companies.
Absolutely.
But alongside with that one, they increase the compliance level. True. Definitely. If there is a relief, there is a compliance.
Compliance. Of course. The compliance will, of course, increase.
Yes.
Okay, let's move to the next part. Another exciting part, of course, and where we have a lot of recent discussions going on. People were expecting really different answers, but what they actually received from the executive regulation is completely different now. Now it's not that complicated, but this is why we are sitting here today to actually discuss. And even we are also on the same page, right? Where we are also trying to understand new things. It's a new thing for everyone.
Exactly.
And I would say that things might actually change in the future, things which we are discussing. Even the last episode, we were saying, we have not received the executive regulation related to free zones. But by the time it will be uploaded, so it was already released.
Yes.
So now the question is that how people have to maintain, and this is the reason people should start following us, honestly. Why? Because this whole structure, what SA Consultants is actually doing right now, we are spending our own time, we are investing our own resources for the actual betterment and for the actual knowledge sharing. And we both, of course, as partners, I understand that it becomes how much it is difficult to maintain this whole routine, of course, right?
Yes, exactly.
Now, let's move to the next level of free zones. Before moving to this discussion, because everybody knew that by the time this executive regulation will be released, so free zone companies will have exceptions. And I remember last year when people started to discuss about free zones, they were even I heard, and I honestly I was like people actually were sharing a lot of wrong information at that time. Where they were actually, you remember that we were discussing a couple of videos we saw together, and they were saying that there is no corporate tax for free zone companies. Exactly. And we were telling everyone, no, it is not going to be like this. So please, don't follow these kind of, unreliable or without only those people who do not want to, they might have their own agenda, right? But they are not the right people to follow.
Exactly.
In terms of the either you should straight away. I would actually say that you should follow the FTA's guidelines.
Yeah.
It's always very clear. It's always very, very simple. They try to accessible.
Yeah.
They are doing their seminars. They're doing their webinars. Everything is there. You have any question, you write them email. They reply you. You have any question, just pick up the phone and just dial them, and they will reply you. And then even though if you still have a lot of, want to discuss anything, so go to the people who actually know those things, right? Now, when the VAT was implemented, I remember 2018, there were two distinguished or the types of free zones.
Exactly.
Those were separated, right? One was, of course, designated. And anything which is non-designated, right?
Exactly.
So we have a lot of designated and non-designated. Let's be very specific about it. There's no, everyone knows that JAVZA is a designated zone,
exactly.
Right? DMCC is not a designated zone, technically. Hamriya, safe zone, designated zones, right? But maybe Dubai Silicon Oasis Authority it's not a designated zone. Now, what is the most important change which we need to understand here? It's very important now. So, one thing is qualifying free zone.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It was there last year when the decree law was released. Everybody was like qualifying free zone. Okay, it could be maybe every free zone. Right? But it is not the case.
It's not. It seems to be not the case.
It seems to be not the case.
Exactly,
right?
Because we are expecting maybe they issue a list like the designated zone they done in the VAT.
Correct.
The same they will do as a qualifying free zone in the corporate tax, and maybe a couple of the free zone are excluded from that.
Absolutely. Maybe. So that means if somebody is saying that open a company or open a license in any free zone and can actually exclude you from the corporate tax liability. That is not going to be the case.
Actually, you cannot say that's exactly the wrong information. You can say this is the incomplete information.
This is incomplete. Why it is incomplete?
More dangerous, by the
exactly,
way.
Yes. Why it is incomplete? Because you're saying that designated zones or the qualifying qualifying free zones list has to be still, we're waiting for that information. There could be some further information be passed on,
right? We're very much hopeful that we will get that.
Now, so if I just kind of simplify it, a company, I'll take an example. Like a lot of people open licenses in free zones. There is always a reason why. There could be e-commerce companies, right? Maybe some trading companies, but they are trading outside the UAE, right? There could be e-commerce companies trading outside the UAE. There could be companies which are related to brokerage services, some real estate related stuff, of course. I'm talking about specifically the free zones. I'm not kind of trying to create any difference between the designated, non-designated or qualifying. I'm talking about generally I'm talking about. So for example, if a company doing e-commerce stuff, and there are thousands of companies, right? They are into Amazon. They are into like drop shipping. They are into online supplies. They have their own they have their own stores, e-stores, where they are actually kind of trading within the UAE, sometimes outside the UAE, of course. Now, again, going back, because our purpose of sitting here is to explain things, not to complicate things, right? So any free zone company, taking example of e-commerce, earning up to 3 million dirhams. Again, the same thing applies. The exemption applies.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
That exemption is straightforward for whether it is mainland or free zone. Correct? Now, any company which actually exceeds that revenue. Now, the question arises, if that license is opened and operated in qualifying free zone, question number one, right? So this is the first question they need to ask themselves.
Exactly.
If they are in a qualifying free zone, then they have to actually ask themselves another question. And that would be whether they are actually performing qualifying activities, right? Or they are performing non-qualifying or excluded activities, right?
Activities.
Now, this is really important now, again. If somebody wants to get the exemption, first they need to make sure that their license is in qualifying free zone. Second, they should be performing the qualifying free zone activities. And they are earning revenues or income from those qualifying streams.
Exactly.
Right? Then they can expect some exemption, right?
Exactly.
Otherwise, there could be some, of course, applicability of 9% would be there. Now,